So recently, the number two House Democrat, Catherine Clark, said at an event that what was happening in Gaza amounts to a genocide. That was seen by some observers as a signal that House Democrats were beginning to understand whether they care about the issue substantively in any meaningful way, set that aside. But they were starting to recognize that politically it was becoming an albatross, and that it was something that they needed to get right, at least heading into the midterms. A couple days later, she came out and basically withdrew that and said, "I didn't mean to say that." And so, what can we understand about how House Democratic leaders did you speak to her about that after she came out publicly and said that, and before she retracted it? And like, where is House Democratic leadership on this issue at this point?
Well, I just reached out to her this morning saying, can you get on my letter to recognize a Palestinian state? Look, my view is similar to Senator Sanders, that what has happened is absolutely horrific, that the ICJ has already ruled that we need to take every legal, moral, political step to stop the killing and the starvation, that the ICJ and the legal scholars will ultimately rule, hopefully within the next year or two, of what to call it. And there are a lot of independent human rights groups already who have weighed in. But as we need to do as politicians is to stop it, to stop the military sales that are being used to kill civilians, to recognize a Palestinian state, to make sure that we are not complicit in the killing. And I don't think the caucus is there yet. I think there's a growing number of people there. But the other thing we also have to do is bluntly call out the special interests that have intervened in Democratic primaries. And this is why I reject all PAC and lobbyist money, and I'm for zero super PACs in Democratic primaries.
Yeah, can you, I guess, Sharif, if you have anything, but can you talk about AIPAC there for a second? You've been going back and forth with them a bunch.
Looking for a fight with them. They keep tagging me on saying, well, Khanna is not putting pressure on Hamas. I condemned unequivocally the October 7th attacks. I've called unequivocally for 2 years for the release of hostages. But when I speak out about 60,000 Gazans killed, by the way, even if 2/3 of those, let's just say, are civilians, and a third, what they say, are combatants. No one knows the exact number, but let's just be conservative. That is 3 times the amount of civilians who have been killed in Gaza than in Ukraine. I mean, it is a staggering number. And so when I speak about that, that doesn't mean that I am somehow not condemning Hamas or not calling for the exchange of hostages. But with AIPAC, if you point out anything that is critical of Smotrich or Ben-Gvir or Netanyahu, they come after you, as they have me on social media. And my question to them has been, tell me one time, one thing you have said critical of Smotrich or Ben-Gvir or Netanyahu. And they have not answered that question yet. But look, there's fear in among some of my colleagues about what these groups can do. They spend millions of dollars. They took out my friend Jamal Bowman. They took out Representative Cori Bush. They came after Summer Lee. There's a sense of, well, do we really want to be targeted? But the tides are changing, and they're not now in the same position that they were even a year ago.
But I think for a lot of people, it's not changing fast enough. You've been discussed openly as kind of a potential 2028 presidential candidate, and of those presidential candidates, I'd say that you're probably the most outspoken in your criticism of what Israel's doing in Gaza, and the most willing to push back on the sale of some weapons. But nobody yet in that conversation is kind of going all the way to a Zoran Mamdani position, which would say it's apartheid, it's genocide, stop all weapons sales, and frankly, everyone in Israel should have equal rights. That position doesn't seem to have anybody carrying the mantle yet. Why aren't you all the way there yet? And do you think there is space for that in the Democratic Party?
Well, there's certainly space for Zoran Mamdani and people who are passionate about Palestinian rights. Now, I have my own view of it, which is that I think that the best way to get to peace is a two-state solution, and I don't think that that's just lip service. I think you've seen the Arab League now embrace that. You have, in my view, post Netanyahu an opportunity to do that, including with land swaps, and the United States can actively get involved in facilitating that, recognizing that Palestinian self-determination has to be central. I have come out against military sales to Netanyahu that are being used to kill civilians. Now, I know for some people that's not far enough. They want no funding even for things like Iron Dome. I'm for saving civilian lives. I believe that if we stop the military sales of a lot of these offensive weapons that are basically what Sanders and Delia Ramirez's resolutions call for, I believe you would stop the war. And in terms of what to call it, look, I'm a person of international law. The ICJ has already ruled that we need to be taking actions to stop the horrific nature of what's going on. And they're going to determine exactly what it should be called within the next year and a half. And I will abide by what the ICJ says. This to me is the position that maximizes the chance for peace. But my interest is in stopping the war and in figuring out how we have Palestinian self-determination. And I welcome critiques from the left. You're right, of sort of the conventional people who are seen as potential future leaders of our party in whatever role. I have been probably the most outspoken. I voted against the funding. I have called for a Palestinian state. I've co-sponsored Delia Ramirez's resolution. I supported both of Bernie Sanders' resolutions. But there are certainly people to my left, and that's what makes democracy healthy, to have that conversation.
You know, we just spoke to a doctor who does a lot of work around helping to bolster healthcare capacity in Palestine. He's volunteered in Gaza. He was amongst a small group of Muslim Americans who were invited to the White House last year with President Biden. I believe this was in April. He walked out of that meeting before it ended in protest. He read out a letter to President Biden and walked out in protest over the administration's backing of Israel in the genocide. And you know, you've spoken about Senator Sanders and other Democrats in Congress who eventually have come around to starting to try and propose legislation to hold Israel to account or to cut off weapons. But the leadership of the Democratic Party very much backs Israel. And how do you contend with that as someone who wants to run for president and lead the party?
Well, putting aside the future, let me just say what I think that anyone who wants to be in leadership should be for. First of all, there were many of us, including Senator Sanders, who voted in April or May, I don't remember the exact date, of 2024, against the funding of weapons to Israel. So it's not just a position that Senator Sanders or I or others have adopted now. We had adopted this position during the Biden administration. I was on innumerable Sunday shows and television saying that the Biden policy on Gaza was disastrously wrong, that the Harris policy was wrong, that we needed a change of direction morally, substantively, but also politically. I was out there arguing and advocating that at least we should have a Palestinian speaker at the DNC. They kept sending me to Michigan, and I kept saying, you can keep sending people like me to Michigan. It's going to make no difference unless the vice president offers Vice President Harris a new direction. I think there has been a tectonic shift in the last 6 weeks within the Democratic Party. You now have Senator Sanders' resolutions getting a majority support of senators. You now have an understanding that what Netanyahu has done and the current Likud party, what they are doing is denying the self-determination of the Palestinian people, as mass starvation, is horrific, and needs to be unequivocally condemned, that there needs to be conditionality to any of the arms sales going forward, that there needs to be a real commitment to a Palestinian state. And I believe that that is a position that can get certainly majority support amongst Democratic voters and Democratic activists. Now, it is not an easy position. You would think that more people who are rumored as future contenders for leadership of our party within the House, the Senate, whether they're going to run for president, would take this position. But they know that they will incur the wrath of some very powerful donors in our party, and they will incur the wrath of certain people in the foreign policy establishment. And so they either choose the easy path, which is just not to say anything, or the conventional path. I believe this is going to be a fault line in future races, and people are going to be judged by it. And some people may find that my two-state approach is not the best one, and they should be free to throw their hat in the ring for whatever positions and articulate their view. But I do believe that the position I'm holding is our best chance to actually have Palestinian self-determination peace and is achievable in the next few years.
I know you have to go in a moment, but wanted to run through the members that you've gotten so far and also get a sense of where you think it'll go next. So you have Becca Balint, who's the Congresswoman from Vermont, I believe Jewish. Andre Carson, Muslim member from Indianapolis, right? Who's been very outspoken critic of Israel for a while. Greg Casar and Maxwell Frost. Interesting, as both of them had complicated primary races in 2022 that involved DMFI and pro-Israel organizations. They won and now are putting themselves on this letter. Lloyd Doggett from Austin, Veronica Escobar, where's she? El Paso, I think. Chuy Garcia from Chicago, Al Green from Texas, Jared Huffman, your California colleague, Pramila Jayapal, former chair of the Progressive Caucus, Hank Johnson from Georgia, Stephen Lynch from Massachusetts, Betty McCollum from Minneapolis, who's led on a lot of these letters and on this issue. James McGovern, Shelley Pingree from Maine, Mark Pocan, Wisconsin, Jan Schakowsky, who's retiring in Chicago, also Jewish, Nydia Velasquez and Bonnie Watson-Coleman from New Jersey. So those are the signers so far. I guess the most obvious ones that jump out, none of the four squad members, nor Summer Lee, nor Delia Ramirez, are on that. Did they think it doesn't go far enough? Where have you spoken with Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and others about this?
I have. Well, part of it is it's the summer recess, so some of them are still evaluating it and may get on. Some of them
things move very slowly in Washington this summer.
And we want to get this out before the UN General Assembly, so there is some time to build support. Some of it is the framework is a two-state solution, and there are people who disagree with that framework, and they may have that concern. And also the letter calls for a Palestinian state without Hamas, and there may be people who have a concern about some of the prescriptions that
even Hamas has said that they're open to that. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know, I'm not saying this is why certain members aren't getting on,
right.
And some people may feel that, to Sharif's point, that right now they're focused on just stopping the slaughter and this is not the time. But I have, with some people, I've taken an approach of here's the letter, and let me know if you have any questions. And certainly with people in the squad or Delia Ramirez, I mean, the last person to lecture them about what they should do is me. I mean, they've been out in front on speaking about the human rights of the situation. And so my approach has been, okay, here's the letter, tell me your thoughts. And some of them are considering it. More broadly, I'm hoping we can get people like Jamie Raskin, people who voted against the funding in April, now with J Street's endorsement, people who say they're for two states. Well, now's the time to actually make that more than rhetorical. So I'm hoping we will expand significantly.
Yeah, and what's been the reaction, like privately or internally, to it?
Yeah, I think people are open. I think people need to realize how much this is crossing some of the pro-Israel organizations and how much they view this as a line in the sand. And so there's understandable pressure on members not to do it. But I think it is such an obvious thing for the United States to do, especially given world opinion and other leaders, that I'm hopeful people will get there and they'll see a safety in numbers and a safety in the organizations that are now endorsing it. But like anything on this topic, it is a charged decision. It comes with consequences for people in terms of their support bases. But I think it is also something that voters now are demanding. And, one of the reasons that people broadly in the Democratic primary care about this, or Democratic base care about this, is the ability to stand up to some of the organizations and money for human rights, signal something broader about a person's values and commitments to a progressive cause, a commitment to human rights, a commitment to recognizing the dignity of people of all backgrounds and faiths. And I think it has become a very salient issue in terms of a person's moral core and progressive values.
Great. Well, Congressman, thank you for joining us here on the Website News live stream. We really appreciate it.